Hi everybody. So in the last section we talked about definition of AI and divide that into cognitive and perceptive tasks. And we came up with a definition that increases human capability by extending our cognitive and perceptual capabilities. So let's, as we talked about last time, we'll start with an example. So let's take an example of driving. So when we take an example of driving, in most of the countries, the driving is only allowed for the adults. So you have to be 18 years and above, you have to pass a test after this, and you should be fully conscious when you are driving, not under any kind of an influence. The driving is one of the tasks which take a lot of our human intelligence in terms of looking at the road, focus and judgment aspects of things. What is the biggest problem in driving? If you see about it, road accidents are one of the major causes of death around the world. We see around 1.2 million people die in road accident alone, and these numbers are growing up, and we have almost 65% number increase of accidents in next 3 years. So now we talk about what causes these accidents. I mean, most of the time it's the distraction the driver faces. So sometimes it is fatigue, sometimes talking over cell phone, and sometimes he is just looking around and not focusing on the road. And in many places you will also see the aggressive driving is one of the major reasons for such accidents. We talk about 5 level of autonomy, where basically the AI assistant is focusing on the road and making sure that the driver is not distracted and giving him right suggestions at specific junctures. So it can do in both ways. It can extend or assist the driver, as well as you can think about a completely autonomous car. Let's take a very simple example of changing a lane. So this scenario will talk about how AI work in the background. When I change the lane, I have to look at what all vehicles are going on, what other vehicles are there, what speed they are traveling, when the lane change is allowed, when it is not allowed. So in this particular example, you can't cross a solid line. You can only cross the line on your left, where you can change the lane. So how does a car do it? What are the components of AI? So when we talk about driverless car, it has a camera and the sensors which is able to recognize that what all objects are there on the road, how fast they are traveling and all that. And then it also has a planning section which tells that where it is right now and where it has to go. So it uses some kind of a Google Maps, but these are not exactly the Google Maps. These are high definition maps which has a precision of even an inch. So what makes an AI perform like us? So we talked about in the previous example, it has sensors, and then on the sensors also it has to make sense of what it is seeing. So it has to have some kind of a model which is like, for example, when we see it, we also have some kind of, we understand things that what it means. So similar way AI has a model which helps us understand that what those things are. And then it has to plan, and it should have a purpose. So basically going from direction one, from place A to place B is what its purpose is, and for planning it use similar to what Google Maps uses. Now we talked about that changing the lane. The changing the lane also, it has need to understand how other cars are behaving and all that. So for example, when you have a left indicator or right indicator, it understands that the car is moving in certain direction. So it is very difficult to put all those things, all those unknown scenario in an AI application. So in the same way, the AI learns the same way as human learns. It see other people driving, and over the time it see all those unseen scenario and makes sense that what to do in those particular scenarios. So that's where the machine learning comes into picture. So learning is what make AI application different from other older IT applications which we have seen in the past. And how the learning works. So for example, how do you learn? You learn the maths through the seen example, but in an example you see a question which you have not seen in your practice, but you have understood the concept and apply the same concept to those questions. So the learning is exactly the same. You try to see it in the world, and then you apply it to an unknown scenario. So that's where the machine learning comes into picture. We'll deep dive into it, and this is the major component to understand AI, and we'll deep dive it into in the next section. In this section, we have talked about driverless car. We have talked about how the autonomous car would work, and it working in both scenarios, is assisting the driver as well as it is the completely autonomous car. And we touched upon that how what components it require in terms of for performing those cognitive and perceptual tasks. We talked about sensors, we talked about planning, we talked about the models to make sense of things, and in the last we have touched upon machine learning. We will cover all these sections in detail later. So stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and do give me feedbacks and comments. I'll try to respond to it as much as possible. I'm looking forward to speaking with all of you. Thank you very much.